Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about these beautiful new bookshelves that are behind me, and I'm going to be telling you guys how it is that I did these all by myself. Yeah, I had no help. I didn't feel like I needed help. My husband, I had talked to him several months ago and told him that I was wanting to build bookshelves in our library, office / guest room area in our house, and he said with his schedule for school and work right now, he just didn't have the time to help me do that. And I told him, I was like, I'm pretty sure I can do this by myself. Well, one day I got the wild hair and ended up just going to Lowe's and got the stuff I needed, and I built bookshelves. It did take me a few days to get everything put together, and there are a couple more tweaks and stuff that we're going to be making to them. All right, come on. Can't be in front of the camera. But I'm going to walk you guys through this process of building these wonderful shelves, and then I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a tour. So we actually just so happened to have a few 12-foot boards at our house, so I took those to Lowe's and they cut them down for me to the size that I needed, and then I put those in my very messy, crazy, crowded garage and wiped them down with some soap and water just to get any dirt, dust, and anything else off of them. That way I could then turn around and start sanding them. For sanding them, I did wear gloves, and initially I forgot to put on a mask, but I did later put on a mask while I was sanding. I did use a 220 grit sandpaper, and I did sand these by hand since they were only 3 boards. If I would have been doing like a really big project, I wouldn't have wanted to sand by hand, but I did go through all 4 of the little sanding sponges that I had, and these are the ones I used. Then of course I had to flip over our boards and sand the other side of each shelf, and then after they were all sanded and wiped down a second time with soap and water, I started to do stain. Now for the stain, I wanted a dark, very like rich color, so I am actually using a stain that has a sealant built into it just to kind of save myself a little bit of time, so I didn't have to come back and put that sealant on top after the fact. This is what mine was looking like going on. I did put it on a little bit thick. I did not realize that at first, but I did just give it a little extra bit of drying time just to make sure everything was taken care of. So here are the boards while they were drying, and then the next day I realized there were a couple little like sticky, tacky areas still on the boards because it was pretty cold outside whenever I was staining them, so I wanted to give them the additional drying time they needed. So I went ahead and went inside and started rearranging and setting up the spare bedroom and office the way that I wanted to. Here is kind of what the layout was going into it. Please ignore my laundry that's on the bed and the fact that this room was a mess. But I decided to start with taking all of my books off of my shelves and getting them out of the way. I put some in this basket, I put some on the bed, I put some on a smaller bookshelf that I had, just so that I could get them all out of the way and I could move this big bookshelf. Once I had the big bookcase out of the way, I started moving our desk. I decided I wanted to put it on the wall that would be directly under the shelves that I was building, and then I had to shift all of these shelves around over and over just to make sure everything fit. And after that, I just started putting all of the books back on the shelf in no particular order, just to protect them and keep them out of the way while I was hanging the shelves. We ended up getting rid of the 2 small shelves that we had in this room. So to replace one of them, I was moving this one over into its space, and then we were going to be using that one to hold a lot of our textbooks and some other books that we have like devotionals. So then once I took down posters off the wall, I went ahead and found my studs in the wall, and for that I ended up marking, I think it was a 12.5-inch distance between each mark where I was going to be hanging the bottom of the brackets, and that was to account for the thickness of the shelf as well as how much space I wanted between the 2 of them. I didn't want to hang them too low since the bed is right here. I don't want anyone bumping their head. But once I knew where I was going to be putting every one of the brackets, I went through and started to hang these up. These were from Amazon, and they are heavy duty brackets, and these are the first 2 I got hung up, and of course I was very excited that they were level. Then I continued on hanging the rest of the brackets before bringing in my boards and hanging up the shelves. I want to lie and say this was extremely easy. I about died. I also dinged up the wall. You can kind of see it up there above that shelf, and you can see some of the stain that rubbed off on the walls as I was installing. And then over here, it is just as bad. So I'm gonna try to scrub that with a Mr. Clean magic eraser, and if that doesn't work, we're gonna have to fix that. But one of the boards, I should have measured it prior, but he cut it too long. The guy at Lowe's cut it too long. So I ended up hand sawing 1.5 inches off of it. Yeah, 1.5 inches I hand sawed off, and I ended up with a blister, and I'm sweating. So now I need to do the tiny screws on the bottom of the shelves to attach them to the brackets. Right now they're just resting on there, but then we will have bookshelves. So I think the next clip you guys will see will be me putting books on the shelves. So like I said, I was here securing our brackets to the boards, and the heavy duty brackets that we got can hold 150 pounds per set of brackets, and we did 2 sets of brackets on each shelf. We have decided that we're going to come back in now after the fact and add a 3rd set of brackets to those, just for a little bit of extra support, and because, you know, books can be heavy, bookshelves can be heavy, and we do not want to take the risk of these falling on anyone. So better safe than sorry, we have those extra brackets actually ordered right now, and they should be in the mail any day now. But here is how they were looking immediately after hanging them up, and then I started to load some of my books up onto the shelves. I realized here, I was like, wow, I have a lot of fantasy. Pretty much the entire bottom shelf, and at least almost all, if not most, of the second shelf are all fantasy. I think the first 2 shelves are fantasy, and then the top is romance, and this is how it was looking when it was done. And that's how it looks now. Again, we are going to add a couple more brackets to them just to make sure everything is as secure as possible. But I am in love with these shelves. I love the way that they look, and I love that we kept this large bookcase as well, because it does provide so much additional storage for us, not just for books, but for other things as well. So yeah, I now have these beautiful bookshelves here in my house, and I am obsessed with them. I think this is now my favorite room in the entire house. I've gotten some of my stuff hung up on the walls, as well as some pictures of me, my husband, my daughter, our family, and just like trips that we've taken. And I just think this room is so cute and cozy, and it doesn't feel like a spare bedroom that's just kind of been thrown together, or an office that's just been thrown together. It feels like an actual real cozy, comfortable space for our family. And of course, since we have this bed in here, it can be used not just for guests who will be staying with us every once in a while, but also as a cozy little reading area. I do have my reading pillow here with me, and this is now an amazing place to come and read. I have read in here in the past, but with all my books here in the background, I think it is even better than it was before. I can't believe that I have a library. I mean, I know I technically probably don't have a library considering how many books you need to have a library, but I am now calling this the library room. Okay, I'm gonna give you guys another look at everything that's going on in here. Okay, so of course we're going to start off with our shelves. Like I said, on the entire first 2 shelves, we basically just have fantasy. Some of it is like young adult or like dystopian that's going on up here as well. But yeah, all of that is fantasy on the first couple of shelves. And I didn't realize I had that much fantasy, but I do love a fantasy book. But then moving on up to the top, we have a section here that I'm kind of considering my young adult section. I've got young adult romance, young adult literary fiction, I've got young adult mysteries and thrillers and all of that put right here, with again some of that sprinkled throughout here as well. But then moving on from there, we've got our other romances put up top, as well as I now have so much space to put like my shelf trinkets and just interweave them with everything that I have on my shelves. Now this bookcase here has so much more room. I did keep a couple books on here, like I did put my thrillers and mystery books right in here. I've got Bibles and devotionals here, my planner and my reading journal, and then just some other books that I wanted to keep a little bit separate because either I hadn't read them or I felt like maybe they didn't blend in with the rest of the books for one reason or another. I've also got some books that are my husband's thrown in on here, and then we just have so much available space, and that's going to be great not just for additional books, but also because we have, you know, space that we can sit things down. We can put our cup over there, we can set our phone down over there, and we're not, you know, we're not fighting for space anymore. And then we have the shelf that we moved over here behind the closet. This has textbooks, board games, dictionaries, and some other like reference books that my husband needs for school, or books that he has had for a really long time. Again, kind of devotionals or other reference books. But we also put his PS2 games, because I did get him a PS2 for Christmas. We put those on here as well. And then I made space to make sure that his PS2 could fit on here. That way when it's not hooked up, we do have a home for it. And then again, some more little trinkets. As you may have seen earlier, I did keep my little posters and I put them here on the wall between the window and the bookshelves. You still can see some of the area where I dinged up the walls. I showed my husband. He was not upset at all. He was very understanding about the problems, especially since I did do all of this on my own. But I'm going to be getting some paint to cover up those little dings and scratches. And I actually just realized while I'm filming this that I left a pencil mark on the wall right here, and I'm going to need to erase that. I also want to address this little chip in the shelf up here. One of the shelves had a piece of wood that was not cut properly, like it was still sticking off, and when I tried to cut it off, it ended up chipping the wood there. I am going to touch that up with some stain, but it's not going to be something I'm going to do right this second. I'm not in a hurry. I'll probably do it when I take the boards down so that we can attach a couple extra brackets. As you can see on the top shelf, we've got 4 brackets holding up each shelf, and we've just decided we want to add at least one more set to each one just to be sure that it is safe and that everything is going to be held, and so that we have, you know, the security that when we add more books and more things up onto the shelves, that they're not going to come down. But thank you guys so much for watching this video and for sticking with me, sticking with my channel. This month, on January 13th, will be 1 year since I started my YouTube channel. I cannot believe the growth that my channel has had, the growth that I've had personally, and the way that I have just put so much work into this, but still am enjoying it. I haven't missed a post, and that's just something I'm really proud of. And it's pretty cool to be able to say, you know, I have a YouTube channel where I talk about books, and I do this, even though I'm not making money at this point, I am doing this because I enjoy it. I think that this is a great outlet, and I love getting to talk to you guys about books, getting to show you guys little glimpses of my life, and showing you guys when things like this happen and they work out. So thank you guys again so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and if you have not subscribed yet, go ahead and do that now. I will see you guys next week in my next video. Bye!